All right, so this knife thoughts video is going to be on this knife, and this is the Ruike P801SF. And first of all, I actually won this knife in a giveaway on Instagram from Ruike, and so I want to thank them for that. Hadn't been entering as many giveaways recently, but I hadn't won one in a while, and I was really excited. I actually was very interested in getting this knife. I saw it at River's Edge Cutlery a long time ago and kind of wanted one. It just kind of got put on the back burner. So I was excited to win one and to be able to check it out and do a review. So I've had this knife for a little while now, and I've carried it, used it some, and I'm happy to be doing a review of it, especially because, like I say, I won it in a giveaway. So it's always fun to, get a knife like that. It's nice that there are a lot of companies and people in the community that do giveaways. First of all, I'm going to pronounce this Ruike because I believe that that's what they say it's pronounced. I always thought that it was Ruike or Reich or something like that. Certainly doesn't look like it would be pronounced Rake to me from an English phonetic pronunciation, but they get to choose what their company is called and how you say it. So I'm going to say Ruike. This is a knife that is not a very expensive knife. It's certainly a budget-friendly knife in the $30 range, something like that. Again, I didn't buy it, so I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's in the $30 range, and I think it can vary sometimes when there's sales and things like that. But it's definitely a budget knife, and it's one that a lot of people like, and I think for good reason. One interesting thing about this, it is a frame lock. You don't see frame lock budget knives quite as much as liner lock budget knives, but it is a frame lock, but it's not titanium. It's all stainless steel. Now, some people, really prefer titanium and, talk about it's stronger than steel. Well, it's stronger than steel per weight. Steel is stronger, and the weight difference for me, I don't really feel a huge difference, or it doesn't really matter to me. Certainly I like titanium frame locks, but on a budget knife, I am fine with it being stainless steel rather than titanium, and I do think that it gives it a really kind of clean and nice look being all stainless steel like this. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the simplistic look of being all stainless steel, but I also appreciate the kind of maintenance simplicity. You don't have to worry about a whole lot when it is all stainless steel like this. It's, pretty sturdy, pretty durable, and you can just put it in your pocket and really not worry about it. The other thing, speaking of simplicity, is the design. I do really like the design of this knife. It is a very nice, classic, simple design. As you can see, the blade is a very, very classic drop point, just a slight drop on the spine, nice curve to the belly, and then some straight edge there with a full, I believe, flat grind, but it could be a hollow grind. Whatever the grind is, it is ground pretty well. I found that it cut nicely. It sliced well and everything. So I like the blade shape. And then the handle is also really classic. You can see it does have a kind of angle right there that goes from this line to this line. But other than that, it's almost just a straight back on the spine, and then, or the spine area of the handle. It has a little finger cutout here where it meets with the flipper tab, and then just a nice simple curve towards the butt of the handle with, a curved area here or an angled area. And if you watch my channel a lot, you know that I think that a simple handle makes for an ergonomic handle, and that's certainly the case here. I've used this knife a good bit, and I think that it is really ergonomic. It's a nice shape. Using it in kind of the more common when I'm actually using a knife grip, something like this or like this, it's comfortable. This curve here makes it so that goes against your hand, not with the points, but rather with this flat area. So I appreciate that. And then in a more of a, hammer style grip or whatever, it fits well also. The only thing with the handle is, like a lot of frame locks, honestly, this area here, you do kind of feel that sometimes on your finger, but that's something that I've, had complaints about on much, much more expensive knives. So it's just kind of a symptom of the lock style, in my opinion. There are kind of ways to get around it, but usually if you grip down hard enough on a frame lock, you'll be able to feel that corner there. As for the lock itself, it locks up well. You can see that it's about 50%, something like that. I never had any issues with the lock on this. No forward and back blade play, no side to side. Even when unlocked here, no side to side. And it does have ball bearings. So speaking of the pivot, it's a ball bearing pivot, and as you can see, it has both a flipper and thumb studs. That's something that I really like. I enjoy having multiple opening methods. Certainly, there are a lot of knives that I like that have only one for thumb studs or a flipper or other opening methods, but it's nice to have both. The flipper works really well. It flips very nicely in mostly a light switch style. You really can't do a push button style just because the flipper tab is so high here close to the pivot. So you do have to do a light switch style. Every now and then, I wanted to mention that every now and then, like, again, a lot of frame locks, this is more of a symptom of the lock style rather than the design or construction of the knife. But every now and then, if I put pressure down on the lock bar with my middle finger, well, I didn't there, but it can make my finger slip off of the flipper tab before it actually opens. But as long as you're not squeezing down on that, lock bar too hard, it shouldn't be a big problem. I have had it happen sometimes in normal use, though, where I'm not, thinking about it. I'll kind of slip off like that. Not a big deal, though, and does happen on other knives. I do think maybe partly it's because there's no jimping on the flipper tab, but that's just, part of the design, I guess. The thumb studs work really well. I never had any issue at all with the thumb studs. I mean, I like thumb stud opening. I think it's very simple, intuitive, and reliable. So if you did need to make sure that it opened for some reason, if you needed it really quickly or something, you always do have the thumb stud and don't have to really worry about slipping off of that. So I like that it has the multiple opening methods. Another thing that kind of goes with the simplicity here is that it's a very open design. As you can see, there are two standoffs there, one here above the lanyard hole, one below at the clip, but that's it, holding these two slabs of metal together. And then it does have a deep carry pocket clip, and that brings me to, it has some nice blue accents. The pocket clip, as you can see, is a nice shiny blue. I do like the color of that. The thumb studs are blue also, a little bit more matte blue on the thumb studs, and then there is a ring around both sides of the pivot with, again, more of that shiny blue. So I do think that that's a nice little touch, especially on a budget knife, rather than it being all completely, silver plain metal. It's nice to have that touch of blue. So overall, I think this is a really, nice budget knife. I think if you are looking for a knife that will work, that cuts well, for an inexpensive price, under $50 certainly, I think around $30. I think this is a good option. Speaking of cuts well, it has, where does it say it here? Oh, there it says a 14C28N steel, which is not a super steel, but a good steel. Easy to sharpen in my experience, and holds an edge relatively well. I am not a huge steel person. I do appreciate good steel. I appreciate the process behind good steel, but for my uses, 1095 works really well also. So I believe that this is a serial number. I'm not 100% sure, but it's the P801SF satin finish. There is a black wash finish also. I wanted to give you some size comparisons real quick. So I'll set this here. And here is a full-sized Benchmade Griptilian. You can see pretty similar in length. The Griptilian is a little bit taller. Here is a Ontario Rat 1. Rat 1's a little longer in the handle, it seems, and definitely kind of bigger overall, but similar blade lengths. And moving on to some smaller knives, here is a Spyderco Native 5, also in all metal. So a little bit smaller for sure. And then the Civivi Elementum. So again, good bit smaller. But for me, the Ruike P801 is a great EDC size. You get a pretty solid amount of blade, but it's not difficult to carry. It's nice and thin, not too tall, and the deep carry pocket clip makes it kind of disappear in your pocket. So again, I've really enjoyed having this knife and getting to put it to use after wanting it, having it be on my wish list, but kind of at the, towards the bottom of the wish list for a while. So I really appreciate Ruike doing their giveaway on Instagram, and that I won it. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. You can also subscribe and click the bell so you know when I post new videos. And make sure you should check out my social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts. My website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.